everyone for being here as well. Much appreciated.
So how did you find this choir director, and what inspired you to do the documentary?
Well, I had heard about Mr. Halls. I'm a resident of Santa Monica, and I'd had children in the school district. They were a lot younger at that time, but word was out. And I had been volunteering, actually bringing artists into the schools, and bringing art into the schools. And I had been called to go to the high school to get some paperwork. And I'd never seen or met Mr. Halls at that time. And I went up to the high school, and it was this foggy morning. And I remember looking forward and seeing this man coming out of the fog with this sort of Russian-looking woman next to him, and he was dressed impeccably. And I was thinking, gosh, I feel like I'm watching a movie. And that was sort of like a pre-feeling, I guess. Cut to several years later, I came to a choir concert, and I brought our children to the concert just to give them a taste of the high school, because I thought it was a really cool way to introduce them to what it's like to be in the high school. And I found myself so moved and so transported by the music, literally brought to tears. And I was very curious about how Mr. Halls was able to achieve such artistry in the context of a public school, and how he could get these teenage students, you know, this time period, to sing these ancient songs with such conviction and such commitment. And that's sort of what got me thinking about doing it.
Interesting. You raise your hand, and then Sean will bring the microphone to you.
The teacher chose the 32 students. How did you go about choosing which ones to follow into their houses of the young students?
Mm-hmm. Well, we followed more students than we finally selected to be in the film. We filmed for a year and a half, and we captured over 250 hours worth of footage, just to give you a sense. We did a lot of preliminary interviews. I wanted to show kind of the diversity of the choir, and to kind of show different stories. So we had the romance, and a student who was struggling, financially, economically, her family was experiencing hardship. I kind of had a sense of that. I didn't really know at that time, of course, that they were going to become homeless. And I had sort of intellectual, and so I just the class clowny kind of guys. So just kind of discovered the diversity, and the voices, they kind of rose to the occasion. The other thing is scheduling was very difficult, and getting access to the kids, and some kids just wanted to be in it and made themselves available, and others were unavailable. So that also affected what we chose. And then, there were other great stories actually, but you could only fit so much in 83 minutes. So we had to start discerning and pulling out, and these are the ones that kind of rose to the top.
There's a question over there.
I was just wondering if there was any audio technical nightmares possibly throughout the process.
Actually, very perceptive of you. This is a grassroots film. There is no studio, there is no big financing behind the film. And here, I'm creating a film that is taking a stand for excellence and artistry. Part of what motivated me to make the film is I'd heard a lot of conversations around how, well, this is good enough, and this is good enough, and maybe we don't need to create such great work right now, whatever. I started feeling like there was a compromise in the fabric of our culture, and I really wanted to make a film that captures and reveals how important it is and how life-affirming it is to aspire to greatness. And then I was like, well, my film is going to have to achieve that too, otherwise I'm a hypocrite. But yet, we have so little resources. So basically, we managed to have enough money to buy good microphones and good recording equipment, but not enough to really be able to staff the sound recording. So what we would do is set up all the mics and have the sound recorder run while we shot with multiple cameras without slating. I don't know if that means anything to one, but anyway, generally you slate so that you can sync the footage up. So it took about 6 months just to sync up the footage because it was so difficult to line it all up. And that was one of the challenges, and we actually burnt out our editor. My job was to, once or twice a week, have him call me and listen to him swearing for about 10 minutes about how hard it was and how he really didn't think he could do it. And I just said, Nick, I know you can, just hang in there. You know? But he couldn't make it. He did burn out on that. We had to bring in a second editor, and I think that was fate because I think he did a fabulous job cutting this film together. He really understood it, so it all worked out.
I also liked how the instructor talked about how noise is so huge in our culture right now.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about not listening. I think part of it is truly listening does take our attention and attention span, I think, and what attention span means is shifting in our culture because we're going from one screen to another. And we're looking at a lot of short form, and we're looking at really short things, and we're ready to go on to the next thing. And we're trying to fit things in between things. And I think that really is affecting our brains. So that's another reason I think it's what he's doing is important. Things like any discipline, art discipline that requires your attention for long periods of time is very valuable because I think we want to maintain that capability. He talks about music becoming background, which I totally relate to. Everywhere you go, you've got music playing, but it's not that we're listening to it. It's kind of just there. And I think that affects the way we perceive and understand music. And yeah.
I see another question, two questions over here.
So it's so hard to see.
Mr. Hull was his name?
Mr. Holz.
Admitted that he was a control freak. Did he try to exercise control over any of the film or anything like that?
Interesting question. Funny story, I only found out when he's come to a few of the screenings, and I only found it out during a Q&A. It took a while to get permission and access to the school and to have him agree to do it and all that stuff. Well, it turns out that when he did agree to do it, he thought we were going to be coming and shooting for about 3 days, maybe 5 days. We shot for 1.5 years, and he never said a word. And I had already indicated that I wanted to kind of channel his message and what he stood for, and he trusted that. I think after we shot for so long and he could see my passion equaled his passion. And then when he finally saw the film, he was very generous. He really was mostly concerned about one shot where he felt that because of budgetary cuts and this and that, he had to Xerox some of the music. And he was concerned of showing the students not using the books, but using Xerox copies. And then there was one other point where he felt he looked a little too disgruntled about something, but that's the only notes he gave me. I mean, outside of that, he just completely embraced it as is. So he was very amazing about that, yeah.
A question right there.
What would you like to do next? What's your next project?
Can you raise your hand? Oh, there you go. Thank you for asking that. I will say about Big Voice before I move on, because I do have projects I'm working on now. It is about to launch on video on demand. It will be available on iTunes as well as you'll find it September 2nd. It will launch on Comcast and Time Warner and DirecTV, and you'll eventually see it on Netflix and Amazon and whatever. So please keep an eye out for it. As I said, we're a grassroots film, so you're spreading the word, you're telling other people about it. It would be hugely helpful to making it possible for others to see it. So I just wanted to invite you, if you did like it, to kind of tell others about it. And we have a Facebook page, and we have a YouTube channel, and we have Twitter accounts. If you want to follow us and find out when we're launching all that stuff, that would be great. In regards to my newest project, actually I'm working on 2 feature films, scripted features. One is top secret, so I can't talk about it, unfortunately. That one I'm being hired to do. The other, I'm producing again and directing with a producing team. And it's called Brad. It's a beautiful scripted film. It has some similar themes, and it deals with some young kids who are artists. They're hyper imaginative. These 2 little boys, it's set in 1976, and they are sort of outcasts because they're not good at sports, you know, this and that, but they're really good at art. And they sort of live in their imaginary worlds, and a new girl, a foster girl, comes into the school. They're 8th graders, and she, because she's a foster child, she's older than the rest of the kids and very developed physically, and she's teased. And these 2 boys decide to make her her emergency best friend. And she experiences continued hardship, much more severe than that, and they basically become unlikely heroes when they rescue her. So it's all about the importance of kindness. It's children being kind to each other. And then it also sees the adult world and some of the struggles that the adults in their lives are having through their eyes. And so that's it. That's what I'm working on next.
Do we have any more questions? Okay.
Thank you. Very inspiring film.
Hi, thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Once you got inspired, what was the process of putting your team together? Did you do crowdfunding, and how did it kind of come together from the point of inspiration?
Big Voice is a gift in my life. It's a gift. I don't know why I am doing Big Voice, why I made Big Voice. I was cooking in the kitchen, and I had been invited to do some scripted films, but I found them vacuous. The scripts that were being sent to me, I didn't feel they were particularly good for society. They were very, in my opinion, crass, and just didn't mean anything. I was just trying to get you to laugh, or which, I mean, there's value in that, but hopefully I made you laugh a little bit too. But it just came to me, if I were to make any film in the world, what would that film be? And this came to me. I can't read music, I never sang in choir. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it came to me, and it's like it already existed. I just had to step into it. And so, and it did really unfold in that way. I just started to think about what kind of we crowdfunded. We did a Kickstarter campaign. We did raise enough money to be able to make the film. But very much, people volunteering and me, volunteering all my time and all that to make it. But still, there was enough to pay for what we had to pay for. And I put a team together that I knew had different abilities. I had a producer who had sort of mentored, who was very good with contracts and paperwork and releases. We have a lot of people in this film. We have a lot of music in this film. We have art in the film. And she's like a lawyer. So I knew I needed someone like that. And she came on board, and I knew someone who was very well connected with the school and very well connected with money people. So she came on board. So I just kind of, approached each of them and told them about the project and asked them if they wanted to help. That's how we did it.
Great.
Yeah, sure.
I did see on PBS, I don't know if you've already connected them, but Josh Rogan has the Shine Your Light Foundation, and he's all about supporting the arts and kids in the high school arts, and he has a big foundation, so I don't know if that's,
Well,
you love this film.
Yeah, maybe we can speak afterwards. I've got a little book in case anyone has. If you want to be connected, I'd love to get your email. If you have any ideas or thoughts on how to get the film screened in other locations, I'd love to connect with you. I'm sort of setting up screenings however I can to help get it out. So any ideas you might have, please, I invite you. And if you want to stay connected, I have a little book here, and I'd love your email address, and we'll stay connected with you. Thank you.
Are you able to go out into the lobby?
Yes, I'll be right in the lobby, and I'm staying throughout the festival, so I'm around.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My name is Varda Barkar, and I'm the producer-director of Big Voice, and I'm here in Prescott because the Prescott Film Festival had selected Big Voice to screen, and it's screened tonight, and that's why I'm here, to be with it.
You had a great turnout, I thought.
Yes, I thought so. A lot of people showed up, and I'm really happy about that. It's a Thursday evening. It's a relatively small town. I'm from Santa Monica, and I'm surrounded by Los Angeles, so for me it's small. So I was happy to see that so many people came to see it.
So why don't you tell about the inspiration for the movie and why you thought this was important to share with the world?
Okay. Big Voice chronicles a challenging year in a high school choir director and his most advanced ensemble, as he pushes his students to achieve true artistry despite the obstacles they face. And I was inspired to make it because I'd gone to a concert, and I'd never been to a choir concert before, and I'd never been to a concert that the choir director, Mr. Halls, had directed. And when I went to this high school and saw the concert, I was so deeply moved, and I couldn't believe how he had been able to inspire the students to have such commitment and to take such ownership of the music that had been written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I felt so transported by it. Became very curious to know how he did that.
How many films had you done before this?
This is my first feature documentary that I've produced and directed. Prior to this, and even alongside the making of this, I make a lot of short form films. And I make a lot of cause-related films, and I make films for brands, and I've written and directed a couple of web series, and I've made a number of award-winning short films. So I've done a lot of short form, and this is really the first feature-length documentary that I produced and directed.
And you mentioned that you filmed for a year and a half.
Yes.
And so that was probably a big step for you and for the instructor too, Mr. Holtz.
Yes. It's interesting. I titled the film Big Voice. It has that word big in it. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be one of the defining principles of this film. It's a big film. There's a lot of students in it, as you noticed. There's a lot of music in it. It took over a year and a half to film. We shot 250 hours. I'm now 5 years in to the process between the concept and raising the funds, the year and a half from shooting, the 6 months of syncing, year and a half of post-production. We've got the distribution now. It's going to be distributed nationally by Gravitas Ventures in North America. And we have educational distribution with the video project. So it's now already available to educators, and it's doing very well amongst educators. People are responding. We're getting really great reviews.
Well, I think some of the underlying themes that are universal, whether you're teaching music or math or whatever, is to be dedicated to your students and to really strive for excellence, mm-hmm. and not to accept second best. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think what happens in our society is we underestimate our children. We want them to be comfortable, we don't want them to struggle, we want everything to be good for them, and we forget that how enriching struggle is, that even within the struggle, when we're aspiring to something and we're experiencing obstacles and it feels like we can't do it and it feels like we've done it wrong and then we've got to do it again, and we go through all of this journey just like I did in the making of Big Voice. We will have breakthroughs. We will achieve great things if we stick with it, if we're willing to get uncomfortable. And so that's part of what the Big Voice teaches us, is it's okay to struggle And that's part of the learning process. It's okay to be uncomfortable. We can allow our children to be disappointed or to make mistakes rather than to feel like we have to protect them all the time. And I myself am a mother, and I know what that feels like. But both my children know that, and it's already in them, they're young adults now, that if you're going to do something, do it all the way. If you do it halfway, it's not that thing. You've done a halfway thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when you take something all the way that you've actually created that thing that you've aspired to and dreamed of making.
And that's a universal principle, and it doesn't have to be. But the way that he applied it to music, and the fact that he didn't just want them just to learn the song, or the ditty, as he called it, but he wanted them to learn what goes into the making of an excellent performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was very important, that he gave them building blocks that they can use now for the rest of their lives.
It's true, and that's one of the insights I actually had in making the film, that I didn't realize what teachers do. He knows that they can achieve this extraordinary level of expression, this artistry, because he's done it already with other students.
Mm-hmm.
And even he himself sings, and he's gone through the process, and he's had breakthroughs. But they don't know that. They're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they think they've done their best. They don't understand that there's more, and it can be better and better and better. So he holds that position for them, and he's willing to get uncomfortable because there's a lot of pushback, as you saw.
Mm-hmm.
And he's willing to hold that place for them until they have that breakthrough, and then they get it. And that's something I realize now teachers do for their students.
So, is this your first time now to Prescott?
I've been through here, but it's my first time spending a little bit of time. I do like this part of Arizona. I spent like about 3 months on the Navajo reservation, studying under a medicine man for another project. And my husband's family lives in the Phoenix area, and a niece and nephew live in this area, so I've been around this area before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying your time here?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I arrived this morning, so
Mm-hmm.
but I'm enjoying my time. Yes,
And
the
will
sky.
you be
I'm
staying
enjoying
for a
the
couple
sky.
days, or do you leave tomorrow?
I'm staying through Sunday, so I get to experience the festival and spend some time here and kind of get to know the people. And
Well, that's great. And like
Yeah.
you said, it's a small community, but I think that as a community, they've got big visions. And so it's very great that you brought your movie here, and we certainly appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I just wanted, as I mentioned after the screening, I just want to mention that Big Voice is having a national distribution in video on demand. And so people can keep a lookout for it, because it is a grassroots production, and you're not going to see a lot of marketing and PR behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So these little conversations that we're having and interviews in this are very critical. So if people can keep an eye out for it, that would be wonderful.
And why don't you talk a little bit then about who a great audience for the film would be? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you'd like to feel that everybody's a great audience, and in many ways they are. But I think that especially teachers and somebody was mentioning that the choir director at their church really needs to see it. And so who would be your target audience for this?
Actually, I should say that right now at videoproject.com, this film is available to educators, organizations, choirs as a DVD. It can actually be of service not just as entertainment and to inspire the students, but my dream is that once a teacher or a school acquires Big Voice, they can use it as a fundraiser. They can actually charge a little admission. They can screen it every year, and people will come and pay, and then that money can go towards arts programs.
What a great idea.
Yeah. I think that art teachers, art students, students of choir, music lovers, I think young people, my dream is that young people will watch this film and get inspired. And I think that middle schoolers would really enjoy it, and I've noticed that when we do have middle schoolers, they love it because they get to see what it's like to be in high school, and they get to see teenagers speaking. Except for Mr. Halls, most of the people that are in the film are teenagers. We've got 32 teenagers in the film, and they're speaking for themselves about their own personal experiences. And that's a great opportunity for middle schoolers to hear, you know, the older kids and what they're going through, and kind of get a sense of what their future is going to look like.
So have the students that were in the film, have they seen it, and what has their response to you been?
Not all of them have seen it. And I can't explain to you why, because there have been opportunities. But those who have seen it really like it, and they enjoy it. And for them, it's a journey into the past. They're very nostalgic, but they really do love the film. Mr. Hulls especially loves the film, so I feel, you know, grateful for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, that's
Anything
good.
more?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
you.
for taking the time.